Podcasting from Astrolab Studios, this is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows that have faded from the collective consciousness and didn't quite make the impact that they intended. This week, Justice League of America.
Good work, Flash.
Thanks. Who do we save next?
Storm's over. We're done rescuing people for the day.
What was that all about?
I don't know, but you think that weatherman's for real?
Nobody can manipulate the weather. It's impossible.
No. Finding a job is impossible.
Still no luck?
None. And I just lost my apartment. God knows where I'm going to stay tonight.
Oh, would you look at the time? You know, how long do you think somebody can listen to that tomorrow before they fall asleep?
Listen, maybe they haven't picked the entire fruit basket.
Phoebe.
What? Oh, I'll do it on the way.
Maybe I still got a student or two left.
Maybe I'm hitting the one as again.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast that explores forgotten and overlooked sci-fi television. I'm Luke, here as always with my co-host Jordan.
How's it going?
Pretty good. We had a few false starts this week. This will be the third time we've tried to record this episode, so a few technical glitches this week.
Yeah, I think it was maybe fitting for the show that we're watching, sort of, because we had sort of a colossal mess of a week, and I think that's a good precursor to what we'll be talking about.
It's true. But it's nice because we're still recording remotely as Jordan's out of town, so it's okay. We can bounce back. It's really easy.
Yeah.
This week, having just finished Harsh Realm, we're going to take a little break and watch a one-off TV movie / failed pilot. We're going to watch Justice League of America.
Yeah, and boy, is everyone in for a treat for this.
Oh, man, this movie. Here's a quick question, actually, and I'm complaining, but I'm not complaining, I guess. Are superhero science fiction? Does this fall under our umbrella?
Well, I mean, I would think it falls under a fantasy, fantasy comic book. I think it's allowed. I get what you're saying. In the strict science fiction, no. But to be fair, some of those things we've watched are so bad. Like, does Harsh Realm even fall under science fiction? It should just fall under, like, turd fiction. Am I right? Zing. # turd fiction.
I'm not complaining. I mean, we've already watched it and we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to go watch something else. I was thinking about it as I was watching it. I'm like, it is a superhero science fiction. I don't know.
I think once we started getting into some of our episode 700, we're going to be getting pretty desperate for stuff. So we'll be probably pushing into some weird genres just to fill time.
That's fine. I'm sure there's a list somewhere that has like Manimal or something on it, right?
No, I do remember Manimal.
One day, Jordan.
Yeah, we'll be listening to Manimal. He becomes different animals, I think.
I mean, it's right in the name, I guess. All right. So I guess here's my question for you. Did you know anything about this Justice League of America TV movie before we watched it?
When we were first talking about different shows we were going to do, this had just kind of popped up as I was looking for just failed kind of TV pilots and that sort of thing. And I had, up to that point, I had no knowledge of this. I think it really was swept under the rug. But did you ever hear about it before?
No, I mean, I'm not a big superhero guy. I mean, I know who the Justice League is. I don't read a lot of comic books. I've seen the Zack Snyder Justice League movie. Oh, unpopular opinion here. I think that's the worst of the DC universe.
You've really gone out on a limb. I didn't actually see it because I think we've discussed off the air. I have superhero withdrawal, so I can't see any more of these movies. I can't take it anymore.
You can just watch Justice League of America, the TV movie.
I can watch this. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. And in a lot of ways, no, I shouldn't say this. In some ways, what they were trying to do is better than the current crop of movies, but in about every other way possible, it's much, much, much worse.
Well, you told me this earlier, but I guess when this was shot, it was supposed to be a TV series. It didn't get picked up, and it actually never aired in America, but it was kind of released in Europe and a few other like countries worldwide, but never actually was a TV movie in the States.
Yeah, I have a list of the countries it aired in. Do you want to hear them?
Yeah, great.
It was completed in 1997, and the first country it aired in was Israel on January 13th, 2001, so 4 years later, and then in Germany on March 26th, 2005.
Wow.
It also aired in the UK, Puerto Rico, Thailand, Brazil, Uruguay, Poland, Mexico, South Africa, and India. Those are the countries that were the got the benefit of getting
The
to watch
lucky
this.
few.
Not only was it not shown to the audience that, I mean, I don't think this is North American centric to say, but it was clearly
It's called Justice League of America.
right. Not only did it not play in America, but no one saw it for 4 years. That tells you the level of quality of this show.
I was gone actually when I was supposed to watch this. I was away, and I like watched it in like half-hour chunks in a hotel room at midnight for like 3 days in a row. So I have been able to do a lot less research on it. So some of this is still a mystery to me, what I watched exactly. And for that reason, like normally I would have done a little more digging for us. But I guess since I haven't, and I actually thought it was still released in 97, I didn't realize how long it took it to come out. So here's my question for you then, Jordan. Assuming this would have been released in 97, what were you doing in Europe in 1997?
What was I doing in Europe in 1997? I can't even, you know, it's crazy because that was over 20 years ago now. It's hard for me to even remember what was happening in 1997. I would have been in grade 10 or 11 or something like that. Was that about
That's
right?
in Canada. I don't care about that. What were you doing in Israel in 94?
Oh, in Israel, I had gone to, what do you call the trip when
2004? Not 94.
Yeah, what do you call the trip when, your birthright trip?
Rumspringer?
No, that's the Amish, isn't it?
That's the Amish.
Anyways, I was doing my, that in Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I don't know, I couldn't find a date it came out at, so I gave up and just assumed it when it came out in Europe in 97. In 97, I was also not in Europe, so I have nothing to add to this conversation. But I did do a brief look, still thinking it had aired in 97, so now that I know it didn't in 2004, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I kind of had a quick look at some of world events around the time it came out, specifically in Europe.
This is still good, though, because it's so painfully late 90s that it could only ever play in the late 90s. So I think what you're doing is fine.
Since I couldn't find the exact date, I just kind of looked at 97 and tried to see what was happening. I just exclusively looked at Europe, since that's what I thought it came out in 97, for my lack of research. So I guess what I was able to put together is I figured this show was directly responsible for the death of Princess Di.
Right, yeah.
That's it.
You know what? I think worse things have been said about this.
I think the car was driving by. They caught a glimpse of this through a window. Maybe it was on an editor's screen as they were prepping it for 2004.
She reached over the seat, grabbed the wheel, and said, I can't live in a world that has this show. And just steered it right into the... What did she crash into? A building?
I think it was a tunnel. It was very sad.
Too soon.
But having watched this show, I don't know if I want to live in this world either anymore. This show... Let's get into it. This show.
Can I mention a few things that I found was that from the very little bit of research I did, and I didn't do a tremendous amount either, there's 2 directors on this, and forgive me, I don't know who either of their name is, but the second director was brought in clearly to clean things up and did in such a way that he still wanted his name to be removed from the movie because he still hated it so much. And I have a theory, and we're going to go right into it soon, that all he really shot was the talking heads in a way to try to make things make more sense, but it just makes it, if possible, worse. And one other thing that I want to mention was just to really wet the whistle of everyone before we start was I put down a few different reviews of the show, if you will indulge me.
Oh, absolutely. I love your review segment.
There's only a few of them. The first one is the worst superhero adaptation ever.
Yep.
The second is absolutely horrible.
True.
The third is fails on every level.
100%.
Next is painful watch.
Yeah.
And my favorite, oh God, why?
Oh, man. Jordan, I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I don't mean this. This is the show I signed up, the podcast I signed up to do. I knew I'd be watching shows like this. But every night when I got about 5 minutes into the 30 minutes I was watching, I thought, I fucking hate Jordan. I fucking hate him for making me watch this. It's not your fault, but it is. I'm being honest.
It is, there's no question, the worst thing we've watched. It's not even close, right?
I cursed you perpetually.
I didn't make it.
I know. You just suggested it, and somehow that transferred all my hatred still onto you. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
You didn't even know. You didn't even know it was going to be this bad.
No,
still,
I didn't.
It had to go somewhere.
I knew about 10 seconds into watching it. I thought, oh no, I had the same. I was, oh god, why? That was for me.
All right, let me do the IMDb synopsis for it, and then we'll get into the movie. Justice League of America. An evil weatherman intent on destroying New Metro City with a series of malevolent meteorological mishaps, ? Can the superpowered and semi-employed Justice League of America save the day, ? Or will New Metro be drowned in a humongous tidal wave, ?
That's really long.
Yeah, and all question marks in the synopsis. Also, bonus trivia here. That synopsis was written by John Johns, Martian Manhunter from the movie.
Interesting. I think he had so many questions because he actually didn't want to watch it either.
All right, I mean, where to begin?
Let's just get through it. Let's just whip through it.
I'll do my best. I kind of have broken this down in what I'm hoping will be the easiest way to go. I just want to say off the top, though, when the opening credits for this started, I couldn't decide whether I was watching... I was like, is this a fan fiction film? Or am I watching like a Tim and Eric bit? Like, it's so cheap.
The production values, the acting, the special effects, any sort of production value, graphics, everything is so low and so cheap looking. You have seen better things on YouTube, guaranteed. Everything is bad about it. Like you can't pick one department that didn't drop the ball, from hair to makeup to camera to, I'm sure, the grips and lighting. They didn't know what they were doing. It just, I'm telling you, there's not a redeeming aspect to this whole movie. Did we mention costumes? The costumes are the quality of something you get at Halloween, and they're as ill-fitting.
Well, let me get started here. Like the show opens on, you alluded to earlier, it starts on like a news magazine style interview segment, and they kind of interview all the heroes in their sort of, what do you call it, their alter ego, their like regular person mode.
Yeah, their alter ego.
They're interviewing them as if they're in a news magazine show, talking about being a superhero with like chyrons up of their name, their occupation, their actual superhero names. But it never leads into, like, it's just weird cutaways to just them talking about stuff.
It's used as a bit of a narrative device where they've gone to which has in since then become a bit of a cliche in comedies after The Office, which is, talking directly to camera. It's that same sort of device, but in this sense, it's very weird because I think, with the exception of maybe one or two times, it never progresses the plot or tells you anything about the character. So it's just quite literally just filling time. Like, I think at one point there's a bunch of them and they just are like, yeah, so like we live together. And then they just cut to something else. There's no point for the talking heads other than to kind of showcase their quirky personalities, which don't shine through at all.
Well, it is almost entirely unrelated to the plot, that's for sure. I mean, what they felt like to me is they felt like someone did a table read and they wanted the actors to improv in character to like get into the mood of who these people were, because they didn't seem written. It felt like the actors were trying to like improv what their relationships were like.
It does feel like that. Again, I think I said it earlier. My feeling is these were added as a way to clean up what was a mess that was shot, but it doesn't help at all. Like, you could cut these out and it doesn't take or add anything from the rest of the show.
It would add a shorter runtime. That'd be fucking amazing.
That is true, so I take that back.
All right, what I'm going to do is, before we get into the plot, let's just get into our Justice League. I think this is the easy way to do it, is to look at the 5 members of the Justice League.
Yeah. Just
so we know who the characters are, maybe get into a little bit of this plot afterward.
If you think Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman are going to be this, yeah, they're not. We're going solid B and D-list superheroes here.
So our first superhero is Ice, or also known as Tori Ulfspotter, a meteorologist.
So I know that I read more comics than you do, and I have a passing familiarity with Justice League, and this is actually a little bit more Justice League International if we want to be really nerdy about it, but I actually didn't even know a bunch of these characters. I assumed she was a created character for the TV show because she's so stupid, but no, she's an actual comic book character. So, and all of them are.
I looked it up too because there's another character named Fire, and I just was like, they just made these two characters out of whole cloth to fill out space because they didn't get enough of the license. But no, apparently these are real characters.
I thought the same thing because there's so many other characters that have been members of the Justice League at some point that they could pull from, but they were like, hey, what about a character that literally no one cares about and has never cared about? And we got two of them.
Yeah. And this movie is basically her origin story. Like, we're going to learn how she gets her powers, how she joins the Justice League. This whole TV movie is basically Ice's origin story. So for the most of it, she's like not in the Justice League.
Yeah, she's the main character.
And what's her power, Jordan? Can you guess, audience? Shout it out.
I know. Well, clearly her power is she is able to make ice. She makes things cold. It never explains in this how she does it. She's just always confused about it. She's like, did I do that? That's the entire time.
That's true. It's true. The next guy we get to meet in these interview segments is the Flash, Barry Allen, current occupation, unemployed.
Yeah, they really try to push, and this is the first instance I think we get in the show that, dare I say, this is a really weak attempt to kind of Friends-ify the show. They really have the characters like, they're really quirky, but they're normal people, and they hang out in an apartment together. And he's sort of like your, I don't know, Joey of the group. He's sort of dumb, and he's unemployed, and he says funny things, and he can't stop eating. and they're all like that. And the whole show has this weird desire to keep putting in these sort of sitcom tropes for no reason. And anyways, he's sort of a character that he's like a lovable oaf. Can you believe it? He's nothing like Barry Allen in the comics, by the way.
Yeah, he's unemployed. He has to move in with a bunch of the other ones because he has no place to live. He gets kicked out. And like the second he showed up at that apartment, I wrote it down too. I'm like, this is just Joey from Friends. Like, this is like they couldn't get Matt LeBlanc. Or in reality, you know what this was really like? I realized this show is more like an In Friends episode where Joey got a job making a Justice League TV show, and this was the fake show they wrote inside the show, and then someone edited it together into a movie.
That's pretty good. That is, the quality of this is the same. It's like, we have a few bucks. Can we shoot something that's going to be shown on the TV in the background of our real TV show? And have we mentioned the 90s fashion? Everyone's wearing like bowling shirts, and it's so clearly like, Friends is popular. Please, let's make everything look like Friends.
Did you see the Flash's earring?
I didn't actually notice that.
One earring, and it's a lightning bolt.
Is it really?
Yeah.
He also wears red all the time. He has a real Power Rangers thing where he can only wear the color of his costume even when he's in his alter ego.
A big part of his character is that he can't hold a job. What are some of the jobs he got during the movie, Jordan?
Oh, I think he tried being a mailman, or postal worker, excuse me.
But he was too fast, so the union threw him out.
Yeah, they threw him out. What else did he try to do? I can't even remember now. What are the other ones?
He met a waiter, and he tried to ask the waiter if the waiter could get him a job.
That's right, yeah.
And when the show ends, he says, I'm a counselor at a group home now.
Oh, yeah. He finally found what he's good at. I don't know how his speed helps there, but...
I feel like if the show had continued, he would have immediately been fired from that, too. I feel like that was going to just be the whole thing.
I'll give him this. The actor really was trying to do something with the very little he was given. Now, I don't think any of it works, but I don't know if I blame him. It's terrible.
All right. Our third Justice League member was the Green Lantern, Guy Gardner. In this show, a software salesman.
Okay, excuse me for my bit of nerdy thing here, but he's kind of wearing a mix of two different Green Lantern costumes here, which I found weird. He's wearing a mix of Guy Gardner's and I think it's Kyle Rayner. It's a different
Carl Reiner.
Yeah, Carl Reiner, the comedian that everyone knows. He's a weird amalgamation of those two, and also Hal Jordan, I think, is what they're going for. But you get this weird composite character who he's supposed to be like a suave ladies' man, but he's the who's the other character in Friends?
Chandler?
Yeah, he's the Chandler, isn't he? Chandler? I never really watched Friends.
No, he doesn't. I mean, that's his whole thing. Is that like his defining character trait is he's got woman problems. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, that's his whole subplot, which I'm not even going to talk about. But he just keeps trying to go on a date with this lady.
What it is he keeps having those classic moments of every time he's on a date, he's got to go save the world. And she never catches on because she's stupid. Because it's very clear. He's like, they'll be sitting at a restaurant and there'll be something on the news. It's like, there's a earthquake, and then he's like, I gotta go. And Green Lantern shows up, and then he comes back and he's like, sorry, I was gone for 10 minutes there. It's like, come on. Anyway,
Yeah,
enough of that.
real Superman syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
I will note you were talking about complaining about the costume. The only note I made about the costume was it looks like some sort of latex fetish wear from the internet.
It's bad. It's really bad. He may have. I don't know if it's the worst. No, I think the Flash has the worst costume because it looks like something from a Halloween store.
Well, it does look. The Flash's costume look like pajamas.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to talk about on the Green Lantern before we move on. So, I mean, you can correct me as how this exactly works, but his ring is able to like create like things out of it, like little green things.
What the ring is supposed to do is anything he can imagine, the ring can create. So if he needs a net, it creates a net. If he needs a big sword, it will create a sword. If he needs whatever. And so it's infinite. You can create so many different things with that. And they have him, I think, use a lasso. And
I was going to say, I wrote down my favorite things he turned his ring into.
Yeah, what were those? They're stupid, all of them.
A helicopter.
He turned it into a helicopter?
Yeah, that's how he flew away. He turned it into a little spinning helicopter.
Oh, right, yeah.
propeller.
I know he turned it into an umbrella, and that was annoying.
He turned it into an umbrella. He turned it into a keychain so he could get a key to open a door. FYI, it didn't work.
I don't remember that.
He tried to get in a door, so he used his ring to get a little keychain. None of the keys worked on it though.
Whereas he could have made it to a giant fist and just smashed the door open.
But my favorite one is near the end, he used it to turn it into a chainsaw, which he threatened a villain with.
It's so bad. It's just, it was bad. I'm just gonna keep repeating that because there's no redeeming qualities in this TV pilot at all.
All right, the next hero was Fire. BB DaCosta. Her job is she's an actress.
A struggling actress.
Well, they didn't say that on the Chiron.
Again, another character I don't remember from the comic books, but
What are her powers, Jordan?
I don't even know. Does she make fire? Does she ever use her powers?
Yeah, she basically is a fire starter, and also she can fly.
The only thing I really liked about her was there's a little subplot for her that is her identity compromised, and they've got to kind of do a little thing there which I like though, because her costume literally doesn't have a mask. She just has makeup on her cheeks, so there's no way you would ever think it's not her. And I just thought, of all the characters to have this plot line, why would they pick the character who doesn't wear a mask?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually just going to talk about her subplot now because it's so irrelevant to the show, but like, she's an actress and she goes out to like an audition. I love the audition. She's dressed up as a fruit at the audition.
Yeah, it's like the people making the movie had never seen a commercial before, because it looked like they were auditioning for like a children's play.
It looked like a Fruit of the Loom commercial. But when she's there, she asks someone what it is, and the person's like, oh, it's for a national spot, and you get all the fruit you can eat for a year. At which point she reveals a big character trait is she's allergic to vitamin C.
Did she say that? I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it's very funny. But then, yeah, she like...
That's an interesting character trait, though, because I can't think of another character in a TV show that is also allergic to vitamin C.
Yeah. And then she like stumbles and falls into some young guy who actually, the actor who plays him is a good actor. He was actually in
David Krumholtz.
Second Addams Family movie.
Yes, David Krumholtz. Good actor.
Yeah, he's really good. Actually, and I actually think the actress who plays her, Michelle Hurd, I think she's actually a pretty good actress too. I would say she's doing the most of anyone in this pilot. Like, I liked her the most.
There's a few people we can say real quick. We've mentioned Green Lantern was played by Matthew Settle. He's done quite a bit of stuff. The rest of them, not so much. And we'll get to the other ones later.
We'll get to Adam in a second.
Yeah. Oh, anyways, so move on. But there's a few pretty decent actors in here that are better than the show deserves. She
actually is in the Netflix Marvel shows, Daredevil and stuff.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's in a lot of shows. Like I realized watching, I'm like, oh, I know her from a lot of stuff, and she's a very good. She's better than this material for sure. And I mean, I think if you look at her on DB, you can see she's like doing quite well for herself.
She probably doesn't want to talk about this too much.
I also felt Fire was the most useful character in the entire Justice League.
Well, really, Green Lantern should be, but they don't know how to use his powers at all.
He was so in this show totally useless.
He's totally used. And here's the thing: he could have stopped this all by himself in this show if they had actually just had him use his ring properly. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not even worth going over.
So our final Justice League hero is Adam, real name Ray Palmer, a science teacher.
Mm-hmm.
What are his powers, Jordan?
He can shrink. Here's what you always have to remember about DC and Marvel. I know people really want to go on one side or the other, but they're all rip-off characters of each other. So he's essentially Ant-Man. It's the same character.
The effect when he shrunk, they did this little like atom swirl around him was the best effect they used in the entire show. It was still very cheesy, but like it was the best effect for him shrinking.
I would say when they all first show their powers, it's my favorite part of the show, and his particular because he shrinks and goes under a deck to save a cat. And it looks so bad that it's funny, and I think that was the highlight of the show for me.
It was very funny. When he shrunk down, he's like, I'm going to save that cat. And all he does, he runs under there and he like pulls on the cat's tail till it leaves on of his own accord.
Yeah, that's never going to help a cat. No cat's going to go with you if you pull its tail.
It was just, he annoyed it out from under the porch. But yeah, this is the level of superheroing they're doing, basically.
That's something we should mention right now. And I know I'm cutting you off for a couple of your characters, but what's weird is how low the stakes are overall for the show, and also when they show the things that they're doing as normal superheroes, it's literally stuff like getting cats out of trees, walking a kid across the street. It's the most basic duties that a superhero could ever do, and they thought, yes, let's film these and we'll really show what a superhero is like.
One thing about Adam I really liked that they mentioned but didn't actually do is at some point he says that this power to shrink, and he says sometimes when he comes back to regular size, that not everything returns to full size.
Yeah.
And I really wanted them to get way more into that.
I was sure they were going to put in a bad dick joke there, but they didn't go that way.
Not this show, my friend. Tonally, I'm not like, it's somewhere between a bad sitcom and just like really low-end children's television. Like, I don't know who this is for.
If this was a movie, the rating would be G. Right? It's not even PG.
This must have been for, like, small children.
I don't think it was intended that way, but that's who would still turn it off.
One thing about Adam, and it's really funny because it happens less in the show, but in these, like, interspersal interviews they do with him, it really starts coming out. And his character is really portrayed as this very toxic nice guy, like just that like internet meme of a nice guy. Like he really wants to get with Fire, and she just keeps saying he's a good friend and he's really nice, and he's like, yeah, nice is sexy, and he like just seems like a real creep.
I think you're right. I'll correct one thing. He wants to get with Ice, not Fire.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Ice, not Fire.
It's okay because they're interchangeable because they're not real characters. There's nothing interesting about them. But yes, you're right. He sort of really leans heavy on the woe is me, I'm smart, and because of that, no one likes me.
Yeah, I'm smart and nice. Why didn't she want to go out with me? And like he's saying it to her face. It's so weird. Actually, there's one interview with them which was like, I was just like, what the fuck is happening here? But she starts talking about a time that he shrunk down and that Adam shrunk down, so Ice froze him in an ice cube and then put that ice cube in her friend's drink so that she could freak her friend out by putting this man in an ice cube in her drink. And I'm like, what is happening in this? Like, they talk about it for a good 3 minutes. I'm like, what?
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the show where it's, I don't know, it's not non sequiturs, but they're things like that. They talk about stories, or they talk about these kind of funny things instead of actually showing you any of that. And it's just very, very odd because they want to, I don't know, I guess they want to be showing the characters, but it never gets past the surface level.
I honestly just feel like this was filler to reach runtime.
It could be.
It adds nothing. It's not interesting. And like that story about the time she shrunk him down and put him in an ice cube is apropos to literally nothing.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I don't know. And also I enjoyed they gave him a quick origin story of how he got his powers. And he was using a Geiger counter where he found a very radioactive rock, and he's just like, I couldn't help myself. I just started picking it up and rubbing it.
Isn't it weird though that he was the only one that they showed his origin? Like it looked like a thing where they were going to do a quick flashback to all of them, but I think he's the only one where they showed it, right?
Only one they did it for.
Yeah, it was weird.
Oh, that's not true. I think they might have shown Fire as a child lighting a Christmas tree on fire.
I think she just talked about it.
No, I feel like they showed it. I mean, it wasn't good enough for me to imagine it in my mind.
I'm not going to argue with you, but I will again plead ignorance because I was so bored that I most likely just tuned out.
I will say this is the best part of Adam, is the actor who plays him is the Crypt Keeper.
That's right. Yeah, he's a voice actor is what he's mostly known for.
I actually looked at photos of the Crypt Keeper. I think there's a chance it's that guy in makeup.
Oh, do you think? No, I think the Grim Creeper wasn't he a puppet of some sort?
I'm wondering if he's a puppet in some of them, and some of them they use his face. I could be wrong, but like I went to his IMDb and was comparing the Crypt Keeper to his face, and I'm like, oh, this could be him still.
It's I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but it's John Cassier or John Kasser, who you're discussing. I
could be wrong, but they definitely modeled the face after his if it wasn't his face itself.
That's the least flattering thing you could say about the poor man. That they based the Grim Keeper on his face.
No, the least flattering thing I could say about him is that he was in Justice League of America.
Oh! Hashtag too soon. That's what the kids say.
And then there is one last part of Justice League, and that is...
I know what you're going to say, and I was excited.
The Martian Manhunter,
yeah,
whose name I guess is John Johns?
John Jones.
I mean, I assume that was spelt like it sounds, but it's in fact spelled JONNJ-ONZ.
Yeah, he's trying to write in Martian, translate to English. Give him a break.
Oh, is this a name he gave himself?
I can't remember. I'm sorry, my Martian Manhunter memory is
he's just illiterate.
It's not where it once was, but we should say played by, and I feel bad because I really like this actor, but it's David Ogden Stiers who played the role, and he's not cast well because the guy had to be at least 60 when they did this.
This actor who Jordan's referring to is from MASH. He played Major Charles Winchester.
Yeah, and he's done a lot of like cheesy science fiction over the years, so it's not like this was I think a huge embarrassment for him, but it's just a shame because he's a good actor, and he's literally there to kind of push the plot forward. But the funny thing about it is the whole show kind of does this tease that who is this guy, and you're gonna see him, and they keep and it's like it's gonna be the most disappointing reveal ever, and of course it is because it's bad makeup on poor David Ogden Stiers, and he's kind of overweight, so they've tried to do a bit of a Marlon Brando thing where they shoot him in shadow. And there's
one shot where they literally show his gut, and I'm like, oh, poor Martian Manhunter's so out of shape.
I know, and it's like just don't use that shot. But again, he's not particularly bad in the role. It's just he looks so dumb, and the character doesn't really. He's sort of treated as the leader of the group, and he's a
father figure.
He's like Splinter or one of these other leaders of the group.
He brings a lot of gravitas to it too. Like he does bring like a certain gravitas to it until the one moment, because they wrap up this plot for Fire where this guy may discover her identity who wants to date her, and they wrap that up by having Martian Manhunter show up and like I guess morph into an identical version of her, so that he's like, oh, I guess you're not Fire. And then as he walks away in his like male voice in his female body, he's like, this costume really must chafe your thighs.
Yeah. Then that's this show. That's about as funny as this show gets.
But I was like, you're not wearing the costume. You've morphed. Your entire body's morphed into that. You wouldn't know. This show.
Well, I mean, if we're going to start picking at things.
All right. Let's get into it then. I'm going to get into the plot of this. I'm going to try to move through it as quickly as I can because it's a lot of nonsense. But essentially, there's an arch-villain named the Weatherman who's threatening New Metro with weather-related attacks. Question, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Is New Metro a thing in the DC universe? Or is this just like a fake city they made up?
I'm almost positive, and please feel free to email us and let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a nothing city. I know that there's obviously this Metropolis in Gotham City, and I think the Flash is from Key City, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't think this is I think they just made this up.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they made the superheroes up, so there you go.
It doesn't really matter because it's not like the city has any feeling. It's clearly just Vancouver.
Yeah, it's true.
How many of these terrible shows have been shot in Canada now?
Oh, I don't think. Do you not know this? It's going to be most of them.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
Like that's what Vancouver does. That's its job.
Well, maybe I don't know if anymore, but I know at one point they were sort of the bad sci-fi capital of the world.
Still are, baby. Still are.
Well, anyways, they should be very proud of this one because this is a real bad sci-fi.
Anyway, Ice works at this meteorological institute for this dude named Eno. She has a bunch of coworkers. One of them is put in as a red herring, but we figured out pretty quickly that her boss, Eno, is the weatherman. This
Played
guy
by?
who's starting the city. Oh, yeah. What's his name? Michael Ferrero?
Yeah, Miguel Ferrer. Yeah,
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Miguel.
yeah, great actor who's like seems like his whole career is he just plays assholes. That's like his thing. But he's a good actor and he's good in those roles.
Yeah, and I mean, he's good in this as far as you can be good in this. And, like, he plays her boss, and, like, I guess he's supposed to be a love interest for her. It never really, like, there's no connection there, but it, like, seems like they're toying with the idea.
Yeah, you're right. The dialogue sort of seems like that's what they're going for, but it's never realized at all. You don't know he's the weatherman until later on, but the reveal of it is one of my favorite things in this show because what you have is the weatherman is, as you know, supervillains do. He's appearing on big screens around the world saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that with the weather, and I'll create a tornado or whatever. And so it's always a shot of him talking directly to camera. And when they do the reveal of him and show that it's her boss that is the weatherman, it's him and he's holding a camera himself, but like on a steady cam. He's doing everything himself. He's like holding booms and everything. And it's like, why didn't he just put those on a tripod? There's no reason for him to have gone through all this trouble to hold this camera and do all this work himself.
He's got a steady cam on selfie mode, I guess. He's managed to turn it around to point back at him. And what was interesting is in the videos that's showing everywhere, it's not his face on those videos. What you see is a guy in kind of classic terrorist outfit, like a scarf wrapped around his face with a hood on and like sunglasses. You can't really see his face, like classic TV terrorist. But when you see him with the camera, it's just his face looking right at the camera. So I guess his camera has like an Instagram terrorist filter that just like covers him up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what they're implying is that somehow the camera is able to put a filter on and disguise his face.
Anyway, well, Ice is kind of like at her job. She stumbles across his weather manipulation machine. And in, I think you'll enjoy this, Jordan, but in true Jake Cardigan fashion, she spills a coffee on it. And it turns her into a superhero by setting up, like, the coffee falls on it, it haywires, and she gets zapped. And so now she has freezing power.
I don't know in the comics how she gained her powers, but this is a very Silver Age sort of, scientific accident creation of powers. And it's so stupid because there's no explanation at all, but it's like, it's just one of those tonal issues with the show where this seems like something that should have been in like a 1950s kind of thing, but they're doing it here in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just very like, oh, you have superheroes because accident in science.
Everyone knows that if you spill coffee on a briefcase, a little laser will come out and give you ice powers that are very vague at best. She sometimes makes doorknobs freeze by accident.
Anyway, the weatherman, he keeps attacking the city with a variety of weather-related catastrophes, hurricanes, hail, etc.
The stakes couldn't be lower. They're all very minor weather things. He's like, and here comes drizzle. You're like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
And we kind of went through some of the things they do to save people, like the cat and like just like the Flash running backward around a hurricane to unravel it? ?
I didn't know what he was doing there, but it seemed effective. Also, can we mention, and this may be a little bit mean, but the Flash is a little bit pudgy, right?
He's got to eat a lot to keep the metabolism up.
Like, I don't know if they added that as a thing, like, because, yeah, his character is like, I can't stop eating because of my metabolism, but he should be burning it really quickly. It looks like he's eating a lot and not burning any of those calories.
Well, that's subplots in the Zack Snyder movie, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, the Flash constantly needs to eat.
That's what you want from your superheroes. You want all that stuff dissected because that's what's interesting about them.
It's canon, baby. It's canon.
Yeah, who cares?
My favorite weather-related thing that happened in this show, though, which, like, I laughed out loud and went back and watched a couple more times, was at some point Green Lantern has to run away from another one of his dates because he has to go fight him when the hail's starting. Mm-hmm. And then he runs off, and the girl he leaves there, like, in the hailstorm's just, like, super pissed off. She's like, well, I'm leaving. And she walks off through the hail, and the hail is, like, baseball size. And it, like, smashes her in the face, and they cut to a wide shot, and she slips and falls so hard. It's just, like, the funniest slapstick collapse. Ah, man, I laughed and had to keep going back to watch her just, like, get smashed in the face and then fall over. It was, like, the weirdest, like, Three Stooges bit in the middle of this thing.
And sadly, the actress died during that.
That's not true.
No, it's not true.
Jordan.
I blame Shatner.
I did like, though, after they like kind of defeat any of these attacks, they all gather basically in an alley and start changing their costumes in a dirty alley. Like, it's just like they seem like such low rent superheroes.
Well, that is sort of the feel they're going for, that all of these superheroes are kind of down on their luck. Because, again, they're playing this sort of mid-20s people hanging out in what is essentially New York City. I know it's not New York City, but it's that sort of feel. But they're superheroes, but they're not really good at it. And it's just, and yeah, they have scenes like this where they're all changing in the alley. And I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it just is weird. Because why would they do that anyway?
I mean, you're right. Like, they spend most of their time when they're not heroing, they all hang out at the Green Lantern in Adam's apartment. Those two guys are roommates together, and it's just them hanging out, and it just feels very much like Friends in those sequences. Like, they just like talk about stuff, and they like watch the news and see that like that ice is freezing lakes, and they have to go find her and like help her, and like it's a lot of them just hanging out having goofy conversations.
They spend way more time out of costume than they do in costume.
For the best.
Yeah, I suppose. Although, like, if you're gonna do a superhero show, at least have them be superheroes. Like, I don't want to see them. They're literally watching TV at one point. Like, that's the most boring thing ever.
I will say that part was one of my favorite parts. They watch an entire Pocket Fisherman commercial. Like, from start to finish, they watch an actual commercial for a real Pocket Fisherman device. I'm like, I remember that commercial. And it's not like they show a second of it. They sit there for 30 seconds watching the entire commercial.
And there's another point, too, because there's so much of them just watching TV in the show, where at one point their TV breaks. Like, this is how the low stakes out of this show. They're waiting for a repairman to come fix their TV because it's broken. And one of the characters, I don't know, I didn't write down who said it, but he says, "You got to fix the TV. We're going to miss Touched by an Angel."
Oh, right. I forgot.
And I thought, oh, that reference has not aged well.
Oh, man. This show is hilariously weird. It's so weird. But yeah, they catch a news report that ice has frozen a lake to save someone, and they decide they better look in to see if she's, I don't know, evil. So they abduct her in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that was odd.
There's a very creepy sequence of them abducting her, and then they return her home after they finished questioning her, and they think she's not a threat. And like, she wakes up first in a nightmare where she's frozen, and then she wakes up properly, and she delivers the line to her dog, "No more pepperoni pizza before bed."
Well, because she's sort of a hapless sort of nerd, right? So that's what they would eat before bed, I guess.
Anyway, since they're still trying to figure out who the weatherman is, they decide to infiltrate a fundraiser that's happening at her job, the Meteorological Institute. And now we kind of get to see like them all using their powers to kind of try to sneak into this benefit they're not invited to. Can I jump in real quick here?
Because this is a bit of a crux of the whole show. Is this what is their company called?
The Eno Meteorological Institute.
I wasn't ever quite clear, and maybe this is just me, but what do they ever do? Because they keep talking about, like, this is a fundraiser, and they keep talking about they need funding. But for what?
They seem to just make weather inventions. Like, one guy who works there has made something to predict the weather. At some point they watch a hurricane and they're like, "Oh, we should harness that for its power." Like, they're just like,
yeah, that's what I mean. They just say it's and I go, what does your company do? Are you an energy company? Are you literally just providing information for news outlets? It just was a weird thing, and it's weird that they wouldn't mention specifically what they actually do, because it's the driving force of this plot is that the bad guy wants money for his meteorological company.
Yeah, it's very unclear. That I guess that was what he wanted, but I did not understand what his motivations were. Yeah, it was very weird. But yeah, they infiltrate this fundraiser for this company, and they all kind of like use their powers to get in. Like, the atom shrinks real small and like goes in someone's bag, and Green Lantern uses his ring to steal someone's ticket out of their back pocket, and the Flash kind of just runs past the bouncer because he's so fast, and Fire, because she's a lady, just flirts.
yeah.
But so they all get in this party. Adam uses the opportunity to like shrink down to like sneak into some back offices so he can like look at some computer files to see if he can find some things. And there's a sequence here where he shrinks down and he's going to go to the computer files, and he sees there's lasers across this doorway. So he shrinks down real small to get under the lasers. And as he's going under them, they start playing Calypso music, and he starts limboing under the lasers to Calypso music and like just dancing around. And I just wrote down in my notes, I hate this.
It's funny. I was yelling at the TV when I was watching it, just like, just go, just get into the room. Like, why are you wasting more time? Like, it's like, it almost felt like the people making the show were actively trying to irritate the viewer at this point.
Every time I watched it, I would feel a certain level of just like, not, I guess, anger, but like also anxiety. Like, I felt like this was a joke someone was playing on me. What I was watching was somehow a prank that I wasn't in on, and someone was just trying to get me.
But it's a prank that ends up not being funny. You know, it's like one of those things where at the end you're like, that wasn't funny. No one enjoyed that.
Yeah, like the prank was, I made you watch this. Aren't you stupid?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, Ice catches Adam as he's like infiltrating the computer, and he's like, "Oh, your boss is evil." And this is kind of when she figures out her boss is the weatherman, and like she finds him trying to shoot his threatening video, which was insane. We've already kind of got into that, so I'll skip past it. But she kind of like at this point has the opportunity to join the Justice League. They're like, "You got great powers. You know your boss. We can use you to help defeat him." So they take her to their secret base. Jordan, tell everyone about this secret base.
Is this when they go under the water?
Yes.
So they take like what was it, an elevator? They take an elevator to this underground base. And I mean, one thing is very clear that it couldn't be more clear that it's a set. It looks like they spend about $5 on it.
Jordan, you're missing the deep mythology.
What is it?
They do take a big elevator under the water, but what they get to is a big spaceship under the water that's like shaped like a whale that Martian Manhunter arrived in.
Yeah. Is that part of the mythology?
Yeah, it's a big spaceship.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, because he's a Martian.
Yeah.
There we are.
Anyway, this is kind of where they start training her to be able to use her powers, and she gets to meet the Martian Manhunter. And it's very funny because she says, "You're the second Martian I've ever met, or alien I've ever met."
Did she say that?
Yeah. Didn't you not catch who the first alien she met was?
No, who was that?
She said Leonard Nimoy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, that was another hilarious joke. I forgot. Sorry. This show, I don't know what it is specifically about this, and maybe this is just my own reaction. I feel like I watched this show like 3 years ago.
Just disappeared.
It just has disappeared. So you're saying things, and I have vague memories of it. I only watched it a couple days ago, but it's just none of it is. It's like my brain is actively trying to push it out of my memory.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of, they do a big training sequence with her, which I just felt interminably long. It just kept going. They kept training her to use her ice powers. At which point, like, the weatherman has actually put a tracker on her, so now she knows where now he knows where the Justice League is hiding. So the weatherman like attacks them with a heat ray or something.
Yeah, he shoots a laser into them. I don't know why he has that. He does.
It doesn't really hold them up too much. Like they use the same trick that the TV repairman used to fix their TV to escape the ship, and then they kind of go off to finally like fight the weatherman, who's I guess somehow he wants $20 million, or he's gonna let this tidal wave hit New Metro. Though I don't know how he was going to stop the tidal wave that he had started, because it was a huge tidal wave.
Also, I don't know what the benefit is for him, because it would feasibly destroy his building. The whole thing that what he's secretly doing is trying to raise money through illegal means to keep his actual legitimate business going. But if he's just going to destroy the city, then there goes his business. It's stupid.
You know what? I, for the life of me, could not figure out what he was doing any of this for, but thank you. That actually clarifies that for me.
It doesn't matter because it doesn't really make sense.
It's true. All right. I want to see if you can remember what happens here, because each of the members of Justice League deal with this tidal wave in their own different way. Do you know what they all did? We'll end with Ice, obviously.
I remember that the Flash, he decides to save children. He's as many children as he can carry, and he carries like 5, and he runs away, and then he gets another 5, and then he runs away. I know that he does that.
Well, I'm going to stop you for 1 second there, because he gets away with 4 children. He comes back for the 5th, and when he gets there, like an entire classroom of children have joined that 5th child, and he gives up. He just turns around. He just turns around with the kids and looks at the tidal wave that's about to hit them, and just kind of like despairs. Like he gives up immediately. There's just too many children.
To be fair to the Flash, he's had a rough time with work. He hasn't been able to land a job. It's not been going well for him.
I mean, he complains about that nonstop.
Nonstop. That's his character.
That's his character trait.
That's the only thing he does, is he complains about not having a job.
Green Lantern can't make it with the ladies. Flash can't get a job.
And so speaking about Green Lantern, what does he try to do? I can't remember.
Green Lantern confronts the Weatherman. So this is where he takes out his chainsaw and kind of like shines it at him. And like he's like, give me the weather machine. And the Weatherman just like throws it off the side of the building and it breaks. I'm just like, you have a magic ring. You could have grabbed that.
I love that. It was actually a really telling scene that the villain, Green Lantern's on the like platform with him, and he's like, give me the detonator button or whatever it is. And the guy's like, no. And he's like, give it to me. And so he just takes it and he just throws it. And then Green Lantern's like, man, I couldn't get it. And it was just like, he thinks so little of these superheroes that he just tosses it aside. He knows, I don't need to toss it 5 feet. They're not going to get it. They're terrible superheroes.
He gives up as soon as that happens. Like Green Lantern's like, well, I can't do anything.
And what does Fire do?
Now, this is a bit of a trick question because Fire and Atom are together for this entire sequence because he shrinks down.
I can't remember.
Well, this entire climax is happening. They keep cutting back to Fire and Atom is riding on Fire's shoulder as she flies around, and neither of them do a goddamn thing.
That's why I couldn't remember. That's right. It's a funny scene because they're flying. And where are they flying to? I think they're just flying to go get an ice cream or something.
They're just like flying around, watching what's going on, having a good time.
That's funny. Anyways, but the main point of the scene is Ice finally gets control of her powers in the nick of time as the what is it? It's the tidal wave comes towards the shore.
Yeah, and she freezes it on the edge of the city, saving them all.
That's it.
I mean, what a weird show. Like, it ends now. She gets sworn into the Justice League. We get a brief shot of the Weatherman being arrested, but they didn't like confiscate his laser necklace, so he's breaking out of his handcuffs because there's a villain we need to bring back.
Well, I like that. They teased that they're gonna bring this villain back, this non-villain with no motivations, and he's not scary at all. And they're like, you know what? I think we want to leave this open, the chance that people are gonna want more of the Weatherman. Like, yes. So they imply he gets to escape. Yeah, and I mean that kind of wraps up the show. I mean, I won't lie, we've skimmed over a lot of it, but like you're not missing anything. This show is just madness. Every single thing that you can think didn't work on this show. Nothing worked. And you could see why they shelved it and they didn't want anyone to see it, because it's another way of describing it would be they gave a bunch of money to like 10-year-olds and told them to make a TV show, and this is what they made. Yeah. I mean, we didn't get into it too much, and I only did a little bit of looking into it, but I looked at the writers of this show, and I mean, God bless them. I'm sure they're perfectly good people, but they've written a bunch of kids movies, which is fine. But one of them is like went off and was like worked on House and is writing for The Good Doctor now, like real serious drama. And part of me was just like, how dare you? How dare you, after writing this movie, continue to be making television? But even though that writer was just in the writing room, just like rubbing their temples, being like, oh, what do I do? And like, I don't know, I'll just have the Atom fly on her back. I don't know. I honestly, I cannot wrap my head around what the original script of this must have looked like. It's impossible. Yeah. So anyways, that's Justice League of America, and we watched it so you don't have to. And again, I couldn't recommend not watching it. It's not one of those so bad it's good, like you'll have a fun time watching it. It's just bad, and you'll feel angry at yourself for the time you've wasted watching it, which I think both of us do. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you told me as I was watching this was the dream I was having before I died, it would make a lot of sense. Like, it was just like, how is any of this real? So what do you give this out of 10? I mean, there is a morbid curiosity around this show, and I vaguely feel like I want to raise it just for the insanity that this exists. But I do feel bad. I feel like someone tried to pull something over on me, so I'm giving it a 0. I'm gonna be a little bit more fair. I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. Man, I honestly,
There's a part
I'm
of
sorry. I'm sorry I picked this.
No, it's okay. There's a part of my brain that's just like, it's so weird. Don't you need to give it a better mark? And I'm like, and then a part of me is just like, that's what they want. That's what the government wants.
Yeah.
Like, I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid about this.
So it's got a real solid score of a 0.5 from the two of us.
Oof, Justice League of America. Get out of here.
And here's the silver lining, though. Everything from this point we watch will be better than this show.
Yeah.
This makes Tech War look like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like Gone with the Wind, you know?
Tech War is The Sopranos.
Yeah, exactly. In comparison.
Well, I mean, this is actually a good thing to say here, I think. We've done some shows that haven't been maybe our favorite or have maybe not always been like the best. And I'm not saying this next one's going to be the greatest, but we're going to one that I think was good. I think this was a good show that maybe was unfairly canceled. So next week we're going to start watching Space Above and Beyond.
And I don't know anything about this. It's funny. I was at a party last weekend and talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about the podcast because, why would I not talk about this podcast at a party? And I mentioned that we were going to be doing this Space Above and Beyond, and he was like, "Oh, I watched that. I really liked the show." So you have told me that you liked it when you were younger. He told me he liked it when he was younger. So I'm very hopeful for this. And again, there's no way it's gonna be as bad as Justice League. So if I can watch that, I can get through anything.
Absolutely. So fingers crossed for next week. They were off to some new territory. But in the meantime, if you want to talk to us about Justice League, Justice League of America, not regular Justice League, we won't talk about that.
But don't write us about Justice League of America. I don't want to talk about it anyway. We've done enough, I think.
All right. If you want to tell Jordan why Ice is the best character in the DC universe, please email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. And of course, if you follow us on Instagram or Twitter at continuumdrag, there will definitely be some great gifts from this show. Literally all you need to watch of this show. So
it will make it seem much funnier than the show actually is.
Oh, man. That's the thing. I feel like if you had just shown me a series of gifts of this show, I'd been like, whoa, what a great show.
Yeah, I know. But it's not.
It's not. Well, Jordan, it has been very fun finding out what the bottom of the barrel looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is it. It's going to be really hard for a show, and this might be a new goal, for a show to be as bad as this is, because I don't know how it's possible.
No, I don't know. That's a good point. Will anything ever be worse than Justice League of America? Tune in next week to find out.
We'll see you then.
See you then. Continuum Drag is recorded at Astrolab Studios in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Ruxedler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Emily Carter, and Dwayne Wright.